Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. That is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I'm a reader and a writer. And I'm back today to do my March wrap-up. The first book of March that I actually finished on an airplane coming back from Hawaii. And I was reading the ebook version, but I also have a physical, and that is St. Elspeth by WIC Readathon. This is a post-apocalyptic story with an alien contact. Now, you first have to buy the premise that Elspeth is the only doctor in a colony and has been for the past couple decades, 3 decades. It's been a while. But once you get past that premise, everything else is just kind of fun. So if you like post-apocalyptic fiction, I think you'll like this. You get to go on a little bit of adventure. You get to see how colonies are fighting internally and externally, and you get a very fun first contact premise. And as everything wrapped up, in order to give Elspeth her nickname of Saint, it made sense. It worked for me. I really enjoyed this. Then next I finished Enigma by Ryan Southwick. And I forgot to say that I was reading this for the self-published science fiction contest. I was also reading this for the self-published science fiction contest. And this one unfortunately did not work for me. Having had some time away from it, I think that this is something that if I had been at the beginning of my sci-fi journey, that I would have loved it. This is definitely, I would say, like a sci-fi fantasy crossover. So if you're usually a fantasy reader and you want to dip your toe in, and also if you're new to sci-fi, this is something that is probably going to work for you really well. I had some issues with characters feeling the same and some plot conveniences, but that is just me. Yeah, every reader is different. Otherwise, the author very much knows their craft. They know how to build a sci-fi world. I then finished Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This was one of my buddy read group books, and I absolutely adore this. This is like a sci-fi horror. You have a character who is sent to a prison planet sort of thing, but because of his academic background and ecology, he is helping study the local planet ecology, and this local planet ecology is invasive. They like to attack anything and everything. This book has a lot of commentary about the prison system and just about society at large, of how an authoritarian government or an oligarch government can squash progress, but also how it can make people feel alone and disconnected. So there's a lot of other commentaries that are going on in this book. I really enjoyed it. And then to have a complete 180 from like a sci-fi horror, I read The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And this is just a sweet, cozy fantasy of where this fortune teller has the ability to read bigger fortunes, but doesn't want to because there's a cost. And so is traveling in a wagon, telling small fortunes. And a small fortune is something as simple as who you might kiss at the next festival or where are the missing goats. She ends up telling what she thinks is a small fortune to somebody, and it reveals a bigger plot of his missing daughter, and that's what he's been doing. She's been missing already for many months. It ends up being a found family, and in a beautiful way. I think that Leong did a great job showing friendships among different sex and age, people who are in different stages in life, which is very heartwarming because normally there's almost always a romance like kind of shoehorned in, and you actually kind of have the antithesis of that in this book. It's just incredibly sweet, and also there's commentary on being an immigrant. After you've lived in another country for so long, which country feels like home and how much of it feels like home, and whether or not people see you as being from that country. Also some great commentary in this very sweet book. I think also if you're a D&D fan, you'd probably like this because you kind of get some adventures on the cozy level. I then finished listening to the audiobook It's Not Hysteria, Everything You Should Know About Your Gynecological Health by Dr. Karen Tang. Well, one, this completes my buzzword prompt because it has thing in the title. But this is also very interesting as the purpose for writing it, the author wanted to highlight different gynecological issues or reproductive issues. And it's not so you can self-diagnose, but it's so that you know the right questions to go ask your doctor and you can advocate for yourself. And I love that she even has commentary about women and families should be talking to one another about health. Because you might think that you're going through something all by yourself and then find out, no, your grandma had this issue, your aunts have this issue. It kind of normalizes what women can go through when things aren't normal. And it has definitely sparked some fun conversations for me with my mom and my sister. I mean, our society likes to put a big taboo on sex and bodies, and this is one of those things that we should feel empowered to have good conversations with our doctors. It also has a chapter in there for what to expect if you're going to go in for a pap smear, which I think should be part of every health class. Any females in the health class, give them this chapter because it just breaks it down so then there's not going to be any fear going into it. You understand why everything is happening and the purpose, and also if you can decline or not. Like, you get to talk to your doctor about the comfort level that you have. I thought it was a really great book. I learned a lot of information, and yeah, perhaps I feel more empowered when talking to my doctor. I then read The Dragonfly Gambit. I am slowly working my way through the Nebula nominations. This is by A.D. Sui, I think. And in this, we start off with an unreliable narrator as she is being abducted from her house to be a prisoner on a flagship for the current warlord, general of there's a war going on between two factions, the Empire and then people who are trying to split off from the Empire seed. And our main character, Inez, she used to be a pilot with the Empire. And since she's been injured, she has had a transformation of heart. Also, her home planet got destroyed, so that can do some things. And so this is very much like a cat and mouse game between Inez and Enes, who is the general, as they are trying to thwart one another. Enes to end the war before 6 months, and Inez to end the Empire. So it was a very interesting read, and I really enjoyed it for the most part. I'm interested in reading more by A.D. Then I ended March with a comfort reread of The Martian by Andy Weir. And I like my sci-fi, and this is just really a lot of fun. It does put a whole new spin on it since I have watched something by Neil deGrasse Tyson who talked about, windstorms don't get as severe as they are in The Martian. So that's the stretch you have to make, and then everything else is just fun and actually plausible. So I did not know that the first time I read this or had watched the movie, but it does give another perspective now when they're talking about those windstorms. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not actually like the description in the book. That's okay though. It is still a lot of fun. And since I have read this multiple times now, coming from a writer perspective, it's nice to see just the craft of how everything is layered and built up, leading to the end of the book. I could appreciate what Andy Weir did here. All right, and so since I am never done reading at the end of the month, I always have things that I'm still reading as I go on. I am currently in the midst of reading Countess by Suzanne Palumbo. This is kind of a Count of Monte Cristo retelling with an Antillean Caribbean take on it, set in space. Forgot to say that. And I've read different short stories by Suzanne before. This isn't working for me as well as I thought, but I mean, we'll see. I'm still in the midst of it. I think it's the Count of Monte Cristo just isn't an interesting story for me. Sorry, David, I know it's one of your favorites, but for me, it's just kind of like, meh. The other one I have is The Way of Death by Dan Hanks. After I filmed my anticipated second quarter new release video, I was like, I have this on my shelf and haven't read it. I'm like, well, I should just start reading it. And this very much is a kind of level up through a dungeon. You have 13 people ripped from their lives, forced to go up in this tower, and people sometimes die on each level. It's not necessarily a new concept, but I am having fun with it. If you have read any of these books, I'd love to know what you think. And if you haven't, but one has sparked your interest, I would love to know that as well. Thank you, and have a great day.